HubSpot is a very powerful CRM. Most people know that, but when you get into trying to set up HubSpot for your own business, you might run into the challenge of what's even possible? And that's a real challenge when it comes to finding a CRM, setting up a CRM. In today's video, I'm actually going to take you behind the scenes and show you how we run our HubSpot CRM. I'm Sarah Kapler, founder and CEO of Centric Squared. We're a CRM-driven marketing agency, and we consult with clients, small businesses, to help them find the right CRM, set up the right CRM, and get their email marketing performing. So we've been in business for 8 years. We've helped over 100 clients now in the CRM consulting email marketing space. And HubSpot can do, everything but wash dishes. And so what I'm known to say, it can do a lot. We've been a HubSpot partner for about 6 years. It's very powerful, but it's also hard to get started because you sometimes don't have that foresight. What's possible with a system? What's customizable? How does that translate to my business? I don't get it, right? It's hard to imagine. Okay, so let's jump into our CRM. And I want to give you a tour of what it looks like. So a CRM is fundamentally kind of a database of your contacts, right? And so here we are looking at my CRM, our CRM for Centric Squared, and we can see a number of contacts. We have about 1,300 people in our CRM. We can dive in and look at the company level if we prefer, and you'll see a list of all the companies that are in our system and all the contacts in our system. So, how is this different from an Excel spreadsheet? When you're just getting started with a CRM, you might be using Excel or Airtable or whatever. And let me show you a little bit. So this is one way to look at our contacts, is to look at all the contacts. But you'll see at the top, there's these little tabs called views, and you can go in and look at different slices of your contacts, if you will, and organize them in different ways. So every business is going to be slightly different. What kind of segments, what kind of people you have in your database. Are they potential clients? Are they existing clients? Are they your team? Are they vendors? Are they, software providers, right? It's going to look different to each business. But the ability to kind of slice and dice your contacts into different views is a feature I think all businesses use. So for example, I have our team members on here. I have our clients on here. I have potential leads. I have our partners on here. And we have our applicants on here. So people who apply for a job. We'll talk about that system in a little bit. But what it means is, I'm able to very quickly find certain contacts in my database and kind of work them. Now, contacts can have a couple different things. Let me pull open someone so you can search anywhere for anyone. Let me open myself just so we can look at an actual use case. So here I am, Sarah Kapler, founder and CEO of Centric Squared, and I can see some information about the contact. So I see my name, I see my position, I see my old address, birthday, whatever information I want is here. When we're helping clients customize their CRM, one of the first things we do is customize this information. So which fields are actually important to the business? How do we put them up at the forefront? And in some cases, we even create a field. In our business, we created one custom field. We call it Centric Segment. Very clever, I know. And we put, are they a team member, a client, a vendor, a partner? Are they the client's teams? Are they what we call VIPs, supporters? So like my mom, for example, is a VIP. No, but some people who are maybe supporting your business without necessarily being, totally involved in the traditional way. And then we have for each of those categories, are they potential? Are they current? Are they past? Then we have some other categories. So these categories are entirely customizable. You can create a field, you can call it anything you want, and you can kind of subdivide your contacts into those different buckets. So in our case, we have it as a multiple select, meaning one person might be both, a past client and a potential partner, right? We can categorize people in multiple places. Most of the time, it's one bucket per person, but there are exceptions, and this just gives us some flexibility. So that's one thing that we're doing in our HubSpot to kind of organize the data. You'll see that at the contact level, in the middle will be a kind of activity. Now, of course, this is connected to my meetings, my calendar, so I get all kinds of activity here. But for most people in your CRM, you'll see things like, have they visited your website, or have they downloaded something? Have they submitted a form? That kind of activity that can be tracked by HubSpot. You'll also see on the right-hand side, there's an associated company. So I'm associated with Centric Squared, which means if I'm like, oh, I wonder who's at Centric Squared now, I can click on this and see all the people that are in Centric Squared. You'll see there's also deals I can associate with, tickets I can associate with, documents, attachments, etc., etc. There's lots of possibilities. So I'm not going to go through everything yet, but I wanted to show that, at its heart, a CRM is going to be for your contact information and to help you keep that organized. And there are tools and, ways to help categorize people into the segments that matter to you. And I shared with you kind of our segment strategy, if you will, that helps us, keep things tidy. Okay, so that's the contact piece. I want to show you next the form piece. So let's jump over to forms. So HubSpot has a number of form capabilities. You can make an embed form. You can make a pop-up form. You can make application forms, any type of form you want. We have a couple on our site that I want to show you. So first of all, when you're on our website, at the very bottom of it, you'll see a kind of email sign-up form. This is an embedded form. This gets connected to our HubSpot. We also have a contact inquiry form. This is, if you want a quote, you can fill this out, and, we usually take about 2 days to come back to you and give you a quote. And we ask some information, what is it that you need help with? Give us some context, submit. We also have what we call a vendor, technology vendor or service provider form, which is a little bit separate. And what's happening is a lot of people reach out to us to try to pitch us their solutions. Sometimes we take a look at them. Sometimes we're not interested. It depends, but it's a little bit of a different use case where somebody's like, hey, we want you to, promote our product. We want to give you a demo of our product. Your clients might be interested. So we have a separate form for that. And what's nice about these forms is that, well, obviously you can put them on your website and you can, people can use them, and it helps to streamline communications. But on the back end, if somebody fills out, let's say, the technology vendor form, on the back end of this form, it's putting somebody into our CRM as a potential partner, right? And so some of that data maintenance is going to be automated, which is really nice because it's tedious to try to do it manually. So those are some examples. The other big one that we have on our site, the other big form, is our application form. So like any service-based business, people and applications is part of the job. And we can, let's see where we can apply. So in our business, we have a kind of a rolling application on our site. Sometimes we have specific roles that we're hiring for, and sometimes we just have like an open, what we call a spontaneous application, where we, invite people to apply and kind of have a rolling interview process and establish a relationship and see if there's a match to our company and if there's a need with some of our client projects in the pipeline. And we ask some pretty basic information about people. Who are you? Where's your skill set at? What are you good at? Tell us more. Give us your resume. Tell us a little bit about your availability and your, rate, so we know about subcontracting and how that works. So there's a simple application form that we have on our website, and anybody who fills this out becomes a potential team, right? They go into that category automatically. So forms are a really useful way. We have a few other ones, things like client onboarding or team member onboarding, or things that checkpoints that we want to make sure we are, getting the right address and contact information, and some administrative formalities that we can kind of just share a link to the form, and we know the back end is going to happen smoothly, and it just helps manage some of our operations so they're not so heavy. So we really like using forms. We use it all the time, and that helps pull people into our CRM automatically. I will make another point here, and that's about the ticketing system. So let me show you what the kind of a creative use case, let me see if I can find it here. Kind of a creative use case, but we have a bundle of sales marketing service starter plan, which means we have access to this ticketing pipeline, and we ended up, we don't have a whole lot of customer service inquiries in our business, we are serving small business owners and we have check-ins with them. We have some email exchanges with them, calls with them, but it's not really a service or a ticketing system per se. So we had this feature in HubSpot, and about 2-3 years ago, we said, we should really be using this for tracking our applicants, because that's a process, right? You have an inquiry, you're screening, you schedule a call, maybe you're doing a trial. There's kind of a process to the hiring piece, and could we use that to help us manage almost like a makeshift applicant tracking system? And that's how we do it for now. So this is how we've set up this part of our HubSpot to kind of meet one of the business needs that we had. And I thought it was pretty cool. And when we have new applicants, what happens is they're in that application received column, that first column. And so therefore, our team knows, all right, let's make sure we give them a touch point. Are we going to move forward or not? And we kind of have an easy way to manage that, because I think as your business grows and as your presence grows, it's just kind of a rolling process that needs, you just need to make sure you are giving it some attention, and this gives it some structure and helps our team know, where we're at and what we need to focus on to help move things along. So that's how we're using our ticketing system. I also say that because sometimes businesses don't realize that they could be using a ticketing system for a use case that's not customer service. And so this is one example where, it makes perfect sense. Other businesses I've seen, help them set up on HubSpot. I'm thinking about something like a home services business that might do an installation as like a one-off project, but then they do this, yearly maintenance or bi-year, whatever the frequency is. And those types of things could also get managed in a ticketing system if if you're creative and kind of zoom out enough. So basically anything with a process that needs close management could lend itself to this. The other thing I want to show you, kind of the heart of a CRM, is our deal pipeline. So this is pretty traditional. Most CRMs will have something like this, where you have kind of everybody that you are trying to have conversations with, see if you're a good fit, maybe send a proposal, eventually sign, and then your kind of ongoing client business roster, your business development. We use a really simple process where we have kind of potential outreach in the next 30 days, needs a proposal, open proposal, and then project in progress, and then, closed, different closed statuses. Closed, they weren't a good fit, or closed, circle back next year, whatever those categories are in your business. It's nice that it gives you a kind of visual of who's where in the process, and it reminds me, we're still a small business and growing, and I'm still doing most of the sales. So it reminds me like, oh, okay, I've got some time. Let me see where so-and-so is at. I haven't heard from her in a few weeks. Let me check in, right? And so it gives you that kind of visual to help with your reporting. You can add in pricing for each of these, which can of course give you some nice dashboards of how much do you have open, how much do you have closed. And if you're in a marketing agency space, of course it's a big piece of the puzzle, right? Like, how much of this business is going to come through? Do I need to hire a team? I liken it sometimes to like a cobblestoning, right? Like the pieces have to fit together sometimes for these projects to take off. And so it's nice to have some visibility on that. So what's nice about our sales starter plan, there's two things that I want to call out. One is that we have two different pipelines available to us. So I have one on clients and I have one on partners and affiliates. And what's nice is they are, the partners and affiliates is obviously not our primary focus. Our focus is always on clients directly, but there are some tools that we use that we like, that we're happy to promote or write a blog post on or do a video on or whatever, and we can kind of manage that piece separately to give it some attention and not have things fall through the cracks. Okay, so the clients, two different pipelines, that's a cool thing. And the other cool thing about our HubSpot that I want to show you that most people don't know or see is you can come into the back end and kind of edit the stages of these to give them different names, give them different weights. And you can also have different rules. And what I mean by rules is you can say, when a deal moves to this stage, make this a required field, right? Because what happens during any sales process is it might start off informally, but at some point you're going to want to capture the details, right? And the more details you capture, the more insightful kind of the dashboards and the insights are for your business, right? And so not everything is going to be ironed out or iron outable in the very early stages, but what you can do is set rules so that by the time I have an open proposal, I have to put in a dollar amount, right? Like that's a fact. At that stage, I've sent a proposal out. This is known. I can make it a mandatory required field. And that means whenever someone is in there managing a deal, it will pop up with a little message that says, nope, you need to fill out this field. And that just helps with the data quality and helps with the reporting downstream. So that's a nice thing. There are some ways to automate things, like if something moves to this stage, then create some kind of a workflow item. I want you to send an email to my sales team. I want you to post to Slack. I want you to update their status to client, or, this kind of back-end data administration that can get really tedious if you don't stay ahead of. And I think especially at higher volumes, it can be interesting to be aware of that. So there are ways to automate some little things about the pipeline that we really appreciate. We use a few of them, and yeah, they're great. Okay, so that's contacts, companies, deals, tickets. So we currently actually use another system for our email marketing. We're trialing with OmniSend, just something that we decided to do because it's guinea pig for our team as we start to support more clients there. So our email marketing isn't on HubSpot right now. However, it's very straightforward to use. We can create one-off campaigns and send them to whichever lists we want, or we can do kind of follow-up emails after somebody has filled out a form. So let me show you, for example, if somebody fills out one of our follow-up forms, technology vendor form, then they're going to come in and get this message, thanks so much for filling out the form, and we'll review these and get back to you. In the meantime, go ahead and follow us and make sure we're connected on other platforms. Have a nice day, right? So we don't say a whole lot as a default canned response, but just to explain, emails can also be those touch points, post form sign up, in addition to kind of broader email campaigns. The marketing piece is really smooth. So the email builder is smooth. The reporting is nice. It's pretty easy to get insights to see who clicked and how your open rates were, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a nice piece, can be used for keeping in touch with all those segments that you are creating. Another piece that I personally really like to use is our meeting scheduler. So I have a very simple link. You might see it on our site where people can book a call with me. It's really straightforward. It's, which day do you want to book? Which time zone are you in? This will populate automatically based on where you're opening it. Book your time, fill out some information, and send. And this will create the invite, put it in the calendar, do the Zoom link, and also have those links for rescheduling. So as we all know, schedules change, things move around, and it's nice, in my opinion, to have something that's a bit more self-serve to allow people to self-manage their time, because it's no difference to me if we meet on a Tuesday or Wednesday, right? So I like that. It kind of gives people a bit more ownership over how they want to do things. I want to show you something real quick, and that's when you're inside one of these. Okay, so you can set up, connect it to Zoom, you can integrate it, you can customize the description. Do you want to enable scheduling links or rescheduling links? You can have your calendar. So I love this. I use my kind of time blocking to, make sure that I have time for my life and kind of deep work that I need to do during the week. You can put different required fields on here. You can display a confirmation, redirect to another page, etc. Confirmation emails, is there going to be a reminder? You want to customize the reminder. So all those features are included in that meeting link, and it's really useful to do. There are ways to do paid content consultation. So we've kind of experimented with this too, where we can just go ahead and collect payment for that. So for any service provider that's interested in that, it's certainly an option with HubSpot as well. Okay, well, I think that's all I'm going to go into. HubSpot is really powerful. There's really a lot that you can do with it. If you've ever browsed around the back end of a HubSpot system and taken a look at, the tracking code and the data fields and objects in your library, it's really robust. And most of the time when clients reach out to us, they want it set up properly and they don't want to fiddle around, and they maybe don't have that expertise in their team to know what needs doing from the get-go, or what decisions need making when you're setting it up for the first time. So if you need any help with HubSpot setup, please let me know. I'm always happy to consult on that. You can book a discovery call and try out our meeting scheduler. And most of our clients feel like hitting the ground running with a CRM is a lot easier process than asking a team to figure it all out and have that learning curve, and then sometimes miss opportunities just because they don't know it's possible, or they don't know the business questions they need to be asking to figure out some of these details. So there's definitely value in having a consult if you're considering it. But I hope this helped you get a sense of what HubSpot can do. Like I said, I think it's a really cool and robust tool. If you need help, reach out, and I hope you have lots of success with your HubSpot implementation.